Hey, Tuesday afternoon, October 29th, 2024. I'm going to do a Tony Gwynn recap. His 20-year career. 1982, he comes in, 22 years old, plays till he plays till 2001. He's 41. 2,440 games. 9,288 at-bats. And he gets 3,141 hits. That translates 338 career batting average. Excellent. That is top 10. He's in the top 10 all time. Batting average. 1,383 runs scored. He had two 100 run scored seasons out of 20. Should have been more. 543 doubles. Not bad. 500 club. 85 triples. 135 home runs. That's poor for Tony Gwynn, but he's not a home run hitter. His high was 17 one year. RBIs, 1,138. That's, for 20 years, that's poor. But he's not an RBI guy. His most in a season was 119, and he had 90 one other year. So just one 100 RBI season. You would think he'd have more, especially if you're batting third. I think he was batting second a lot, but he batted third a lot also. Should have had more RBIs. 319 stolen bases. 790 walks. He didn't like to walk. A lot of the power hitters, they're up to over 1,000 walks, maybe 1,500 walks. You know, Ted Williams and Babe Ruth and Barry Bonds all had over 2,000 walks. I think Ricky Henderson also. 434 strikeouts. That is superb. For his career, 434. A lot of power hitters strike out over 1,000. You know, Reggie Jackson struck out over 2,000 times. 338 career batting average, 388 on base, 459 slugging, 4,259 total bases. Hall of Fame. Let me point out some other things. Tony Gwynn, his best hitting streak was 25 games. He had 951 multi-hit games. Where does that rank? 951. Did you know that ranks in the top 10 all time? Who's number one? Ty Cobb had 1,261 multi-hit games. How about Tony Gwynn's 951? You know, Cobb had 3,000 games. Gwynn, 2,400. So Cobb beats him by 310. Yet he had 600 more games. I wonder if Tony Gwynn would have had 600 more games. How many more multi-hit games would he have had? Surely over 1,000. 654 two-hit games. Where does that rank? It's top 12 all time. Of course, number one, Ty Cobb and Pete Rose, 838 two-hit games. Three-hit games. Tony Gwynn, 252. Where does that rank? Top 5 all time. Cobb, 327 is number one. 4-hit games. Gwynn had 35 of them. That's top 35. Didn't have as many 4-hit games as some other guys did. You know, Ty Cobb had 82 of them. Pete Rose, 63. So Gwynn only 35, only because he went for the 5-hit games. Gwynn had 8 of them. That's top 3 all time. Actually, he's in the top 7 because there are 3 other guys with 8 5-hit games. Of course, number 1, Ty Cobb, 13 5-hit games. And Tony Gwynn had 1 6-hit game. 2 runs, of course. There are only a few guys in history who have had 2 6-hit games. Ed Delonte, Kirby Puckett, Jimmy Fox, Jim Botley, and Doc Kramer all had 2 6-hit games. Gwynn had 1. 2 runs scored in the game. Gwynn, 227 games. Where does that rank? Not up there, because the guy with the most 2 runs scored in a game. 2 runs scored in a game. How many games? Babe Ruth, 416. Gwynn, 227. So he lags behind. 3 runs scored in a game. Gwynn had 39 times. Of course, where's that rank? Babe Ruth's number 1, 104 times. 104 games, 3 runs scored. 4 runs scored in a game, 3 for Gwynn. Of course, the guy with the most is Lou Gehrig, 15 times, 4 runs scored in the game. 2 RBI games for Gwynn. 188 of them. Of course, that doesn't come close. Ty Cobb had 324 2 RBI games. 3 RBI games, 51 for Gwynn. The leader there, Babe Ruth, had 185 of them. 4 RBIs in a game. Gwynn had 12. Of course, the leader there, Babe Ruth, had 70. 5 runs batted in a game. Gwynn had 1 game, 5 RBIs. Who's the leader with 5 RBIs in a game? Lou Gehrig had 27 of them. All right, 300 batting seasons. Gwynn had 19 of them. I told you before, he almost went 20 for 20. His first year, 289. Then he goes 300 the rest of the way. Excellent. 300 total base seasons. Gwynn had 3. Of course, who had the most 300 total base seasons? Who had the most 300 total bases in a season? Stan Musial had 12 of them. Gwynn had 3. 200 hit seasons. Who has the most? Well, Gwynn had 5. Could have had 7 because he had 197 hits in a season twice. So Gwynn had 5. But who had the most 200 hit seasons? Pete Rose had 10. So did Ichiro Suzuki. What do you think of Tony Gwynn's career? I say it's Hall of Fame. Here's the question I want to ask everybody. Where does Gwynn rank among the greatest hitters of all time? Not player. Greatest hitters of all time. Well, 338 is in the top 10, his batting average. 3,141 hits is in the top 20 all time. I think that he lands in the multi-hit category 951 times. That's top 5 multi-hit games. And the 2-hit games, he had 654. That ranks way up there. Cobb had 838. So you got to put Cobb number 1, greatest hitter of all time. Then you got to put Rogers Hornsby's 358, 2,900 hits. Gwynn had more hits, but Gwynn has a better lifetime batting average. And they were close in same number of games. Gwynn had 2,400, Hornsby 2,200. You got to put Hornsby number 2, greatest hitter of all time. 3. Well, you got Tris Speaker has 3,500 hits, and he has a 345 career batting average. And, Tris Speaker had 1,057 multi-hit games, and he had 754 two-hit games. Didn't have as many 5-hit games as Gwynn. Gwynn had 8. Speaker didn't have a 6-hit game, but Speaker did have 44 4-hit games, whereas Gwynn had 35. I got to put Tris Speaker as number 3, greatest hitter of all time. Number 4. You got Stan Musial's 3,600 hits, and he had 1,055 multi-hit games, and he had 739 two-hit games. But Gwynn has a better batting average, 338 to Musial's 331. But I got to put Stan Musial number 4, greatest hitter of all time. 5, you can look at Ted Williams, but he didn't get the 3,000 hits. He has the better batting average than Gwynn, 344. Gwynn has more hits. Gwynn had more 300 batting seasons. Gwynn has more batting titles. Gwynn has more batting titles than Tris Speaker and Stan Musial, but Speaker and Musial have more of the career hits and the better batting averages. So I've got Cobb, Hornsby, Speaker, Musial. Do you put Williams or Gwynn in the number 5 spot? There's another guy you got to look at. Didn't have as many hits. Ed Delonte had 2,500 hits, almost 2,600 hits. But he played less games. He had 1,800 games, and he gets 2,600 hits. That's a 346 career batting average. So you could sneak in Delonte there, but he didn't play as long. So that pushes him down. He has a very good ratio of hits per game played, 1.41. I believe that's number 1 all time. I couldn't find anybody else who had a better ratio of hits per game played. Cobb was 1.39. Delonte, 1.41, which is better. Another guy, Sam Thompson, was way up there. 1.41 hits per game, but he didn't play long enough. Had about 1,900 hits in his career, Sam Thompson, but his hits per game ratio was very good. Is it safe to say that we can put Tony Gwynn number 5 greatest hitter of all time? Not the greatest player of all time. That's a different category because you got to look at across the board, starting with the games, runs, hits, doubles, triples, homers. It's a factor. RBIs. Gwynn doesn't have as many homers and RBIs. You can't put him in the greatest player category. He could be in the top maybe 20 or 30, but you can't put him in the top 5 or 10. There are 10 other guys that have across the board better numbers than Gwynn, all inclusively. On base, total bases. A lot of guys beat Gwynn. Slugging, walks. Gwynn beats a lot of these guys in career batting average and hits, but across the other categories, he doesn't. So he's not in the greatest player conversation. But Gwynn, I think we can put him in the greatest hitter category. Now, there are other guys that were excellent hitters. Now, Lajoie, 338. You've got Luke Gehrig at 340 as far as hitting. You've got Babe Ruth, 342. Harry Heilman, 342. You got some other guys in there, the old timers way back. Willie Keeler's up there. As far as batting average, am I missing somebody up in there? Let me see. far as career batting average, let's see. If we go this, I don't want to miss anybody here. Career batting average. As far as who you want to consider along with Gwynn, as far as greatest hitting category. So career batting average leaders. Let's look at it. You got Cobb 1, Hornsby 2, Joe Jackson 356. Cobb, Hornsby, Jackson. But Jackson only played 13 years. Can't put him above Gwynn because Gwynn gets more of the hits, even though he has a better batting average. You got Lefty O'Doul, 349. Didn't play long enough. Delante, he's 16 years. Didn't get over the 3,000 hit club. Oh, Billy Hamilton's up there, 344. He only has the 14 years. Dan Brothers, 342. He was the old schooler, 19 years, but he didn't get the 3,000 hits like Gwynn did. Ruth, Gwynn has more hits than Ruth, but Ruth is 342. Would you put him up there in the greatest hitter category? I just for your information, as far as the greatest player of all time, Babe Ruth is number one in that category. No doubt. You look at the numbers across the board and how he did it in 15-year period, because he pitched 5 years, 6 years. So I mentioned Harry Heilman, he's up there. Willie Keeler, Bill Terry didn't get the 3,000 hits. Gehrig didn't either. Sisler is up there, 340. Jesse Burkett, 338. Glenn Lajoie, 338. So I think it's safe to say, I think we can put Tony Gwynn number 5, greatest hitter of all time. Agree or disagree? Cobb 1, Hornsby 2, Speaker 3, Musial 4, Gwynn 5. And the reason why in the hitting category he beats Williams, because he had more career hits, whereas Williams had the 344. Williams missed 5 years. Williams' 344 would have easily been 350 career if he had had those 5 years, because he missed playing in his prime, 5 years of baseball. I'll put Williams number 6. He did get the 2,600 hits, 344, 19 years. 7, I don't know. You got to think of Ruth. He had the 2,800 hits, 342. You got Gehrig's 340. He had 2,600 hits. You can think of Heilman, Sisler, Hamilton. I guess you could put Jackson, O'Doul. So it's hard to come up with the greatest hitter category as far as what number some of those other guys should be. But I'm going to stick with my ranking. Gwynn, number 5, greatest hitter of all time. Musial beats him. Musial just ekes him out, even though he has 331. Musial had the 3,600 hits. He kept playing. Gwynn didn't play long enough. Although if Gwynn plays as many games as Musial, then Gwynn would have passed Musial. He would have had 3,800, maybe 4,000 hits, maybe a 340 batting average. If he had played more, he only played 2,400. Musial was up to about 3,000 games. See, 600 more games. That's why I've got him ahead. Speaker, same thing. Speaker was about, 2,900 games, but he's got the 3,500 hits, and he has the 345 career batting average. So that's why he's up there. Of course, Hornsby, 2,900 hits. Gwynn beats him, but Hornsby beats Gwynn in career batting average, 358 to Gwynn's 338, 20-point difference. That's a factor. You got to put, and also Hornsby had 3 400 batting seasons, and he could have had 2 more. Yeah, 397. Actually, no, he could have had 1 more. Hornsby could have had 4 400 batting seasons, but on the last day of the season, 1 year, he was batting 400, but he went 0 for 4, and that brought his average to 397, and he finished the year 397. Gwynn could have had that 400 batting season, 1994, but there was a stupid strike, so he ends up with 394 because they quit playing baseball in August of that year. Of course, you got to put Cobb number one. Why? 4,189 hits, 366 career, and 12 batting titles. Gwynn had the 8 batting title. What about Pete Rose? He has the 4,256 hits, but his career batting average, 303. See? It doesn't compare to the Cobbs and the Hornsby as far as career batting average for Rose. Rose was a good hitter. He's in the top 10, maybe 15 of all time. All right, that's Tony Gwynn's recap. I ranked him number 5, greatest hitter of all time. And what could have been if he had played 3,000 games? He would have approached 4,000 hits. All right, thanks for this series. It was fun doing this series on Tony Gwynn, his 20-year career. I admired him. Great player. Fell short in some areas, but he was superb in a lot of other areas, especially the hitting part. Now that I'm done with Tony Gwynn, all right, you want to hear who I've done as far as box scores, seeing every one of them? I started with Babe Ruth, saw all his box scores. Then I did Ty Cobb. As far as videos on this YouTube channel, you can look it up. I did Babe Ruth. I did Ty Cobb, entire career. I did Lou Gehrig's entire career. I did Tris Speaker. I did Stan Musial. I did Rogers Hornsby. And I did Ted Williams. And now I just finished Tony Gwynn. Who's next? Well, if you look at career batting average, you got a guy named Ed Delonte, 346. Now, he's played from 1888 to 1903. I want to look at this guy's career and see if we rank him up there. How did he do in multi-hit games, 2-hit games, 3-hit games? Let's look at Ed Delonte next. I'll look at his career. Okay? Talk to you, and then after that, we'll determine who to do after that. Okay? We'll talk to you later. Respectfully, I'm out.